Hello, dear book dragons. It was some time ago that we met. I'm going to wrap up the books I read in March. I know it's nearly May, but I've been busy with yoga teacher training course in yin yoga, and also I haven't actually been living at home because there was a fire in my neighbor's apartment, so it was too smoky to stay here. But now I moved back and it's fine. It doesn't smell anything. It still smells a little bit in the outside, but it's fine. Nobody was hurt. My neighbor wasn't there, but it was very scary, a very scary night. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. But before I tell you about the books I read, I wanted to show you something I just got. And this is this very cute little book bag, book cover, no, well, that you can put the books in, like this. Ta-da! It's lovely. It's I found it on Etsy. It's by a lady from Portugal, and called Funny Books. I also got a really nice book thing. My brain, every time I do these videos, I'm like, what's the word for that? It just goes away. I'm not nervous, I'm just tired. And if I sound a little weird, it's because of the I have a pollen allergy. Anyway, I read 9 books in March, and this is the physical ones I read, so 5, so quite a lot of were ebooks actually. So the first 2 books I read was by a Swedish author called Kristin Ahlström, Hanna's Sweet Deli, Hanna's coffee shop, kind of. So it was like some feel-good books about baking, really. they were sweet and they made you hungry. I think maybe it was a little bit too much about baking sometimes. It wasn't so deep. They weren't very deep. I mean, I did feel for Hannah, but it's, yeah, I read better things. So I gave them like 3.5 stars. Actually, I gave the second one 3.8 stars. Maybe I would put them lower now. I usually like books better while I'm reading it, and then after a while I'm like, maybe it wasn't that good compared to other books. I mean, if I don't like a book, I'll stop reading it. So I was enjoying them, but it was also, yeah, some people were a bit annoying. I liked Hannah; she was a lovely person to read about, but yeah, there were other people. And after that, I read something totally different. I read The Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. And this is the first book in a series about Merlin. I borrowed these books from a friend. And I really, really enjoyed this. I give this 4.4 stars. So this is Merlin's story from his point of view, from when he's a really small boy. And this first book is up to when Uther becomes king. So it's before King Arthur is born. I really enjoyed it, and it was a little bit strange for me to read this book because I grew up reading The Mists of Avalon, where Morgaine is the head person. And we don't even meet Morgaine, at least not in this book. I've heard apparently she comes later. It's a little bit confusing for me because, yeah. So it's more like adventure. In this book, he is the son of a king's daughter. And in the beginning of the book, you don't know who his dad is. Well, you understand that he's probably a prince, but nobody else knows who his father is. And yeah, it's a lot of adventure. I can't say I really enjoy the portraits of the women in this book, which is strange because it's a woman who wrote this book, but it's also written like in the 70s, I think. Well, I think so anyway. But what I really like most about this book is actually like this descriptions of nature. It's beautiful descriptions of when he's living on his own in this cave, meeting his teachers, and yeah, a little bit about magic, but it's I can't really explain it. I just really like the nature descriptions, and they're kind of slow, but a lot of things happen as well. So I started reading the second book, but I wanted to read other books, so I haven't actually finished that one. I'm not sure. I do want to read about when Arthur is a boy. They would be fun. So I think at some point I will finish the second book, but then I probably won't continue. But someday I will read Mists of Avalon again, because I read that several times when I was a teenager, and later I think they're really, really good. So I have a very soft spot in my heart for Morgaine. Anyway, after that I read one of my favorite books in March was Howl's Moving Castle. I read this in for a book club that I belong in. It's Diana Wynne Jones. I've been wanting to read this for a while because a lot of other books are kind of descriptive, like, oh, it's a little bit like Howl's Moving Castle. It's like, so, okay, but how is that? I saw the movie in the autumn, so I have it quite fresh in mind, and the book is quite different, I would say. Quite a lot of different. It's a lot of, I think in the film, Sophie has one sister. In the book she has two sisters. It's a lot of things that are different that I can't go into because it would spoil it. But Sophie Hatter, she's the oldest daughter then of the three, and she is, and in this world she lives in, it's kind of bad luck to be the oldest daughter for some reason. She kind of decided for herself that, well, whatever I do, it won't work because that's how it is. Very strange. And so her sisters are sent out on adventures, but she stays in her home making hats, and and one day, for some reason you don't really understand then, a witch comes in and put a curse on her, which makes her old. Yeah. So suddenly she's really an old woman, and she feels the pain also of being old. She doesn't just look old, she has pains and stuff. And she runs away and moves into Howl's Moving Castle. I think most people know a lot of the stories. I won't say so much more, but I really, really enjoyed this. I give this 5 stars. It was great. I can really recommend. And after reading this, I bought these 2 books that are after. I think the second book is about other people, so it's not like a second book of this. But in the third book, Sophie and Howl is back again, I think. So I'm really looking forward to read those. And after that, I read an ebook called, in Swedish it's Bokhandeln i Fyrtornet. The bookshop in the I should have written down before it was in English. It's a book by Sharon Gosley, anyway. The Fyrtornet, it's the Lighthouse. It's a bookshop in the Lighthouse. I think it's not the exact name, but something like that. And I thought it was a really lovely book. I gave it 4.2 stars. It's quite sad. It's kind of, I mean, it's kind of feel good book, but it's darker. Well, dark. It's not dark, but it's more about serious stuff. I would say, like the head person. When she was young, she ran away from a very horrible situation, and so she's kind of hid in this lighthouse. It's not a real lighthouse because it's not by the sea. It's always been a bookshop. And yeah, it's a lovely book. It's about this little town somewhere in Scotland, and the people living there, and they're very funny people, lovely people, lovely people. So if you like reading about books and reading about interesting people and hiding away, I highly recommend it. And after that, I also finished an ebook, which was for my book club in the Book Dragons, The Murders in Great Didding, by a Swedish author called Katarina Bivald. And I really enjoyed that one. I also gave that 4.2 stars. It was for being a book about murder. It was it was a very funny book. And also a very quaint little town in Cornwall, but not by the sea. A small little town called Great Didding, or Diddling. It was it's about a Swedish author who moves there to get energy back to write again. And it's also about the people living there. They're good at lying. They make up a lot of stuff, and every year apparently they have like a festival, and this year they decide to have it about books. But before that happens, in the beginning of the book, a man dies at a little party in the big mansion, outside the mansion. And Berit, the author / detective, I mean, she's not a detective, but she becomes one. She helps police. They don't really want her help, but she's very good at see people's behaviors, and she can't help watching. It gives her a lot of inspiration for books. I really enjoyed it because there was a lot of because it was a lot about books. You get to see references to classic books and all kind of books really. There's one point someone is going to this mansion trying to find something really something to steal and sell. And she found this book that's by Acton Bell. I was like, I never heard about that author. She doesn't care about stealing that book, which is really funny because I recently this year read Charlotte Bronte, and that was her male name. Like all the Bronte sisters had before they got famous for their own names, they were called different Bell names, Acton Bell, and I've forgotten the other ones. But yeah, that was when you read those books, it's really funny to see it. Apparently this thief didn't know what she was looking for. Well, didn't know that anyway. So I recommend that book. I started the book after, which I have been taking quite a lot of time reading that book. I don't really enjoy the second book as much as this one, because this one is just so funny and the people are weird. After that, I read The Face Bride by R.L. Medina. This I saw in a video made by one of my favorite booktubers. So thank you for that inspiration. And I thought this was really, really sweet. This is like a, yeah, it's a kind of fantasy romance. It was really cute, but it was also a little bit silly, I would say. Well, it's quite similar to the film where the house is alive and all the siblings has different kind of magic. Encanto. It's very similar to Encanto actually. And Alessia, who's like the head person in this, she doesn't have any magic, but she feels the house is. She can communicate with the house or hear what the house is saying. So that's very similar to Encanto. And she has a lot of sisters, and that may be one of the reasons I didn't give this so much stars, because it's so confusing with so many sisters. It took quite a while to realize who is who, which has which magic. And yeah, it was, as you see, it's kind of short. I would have enjoyed it a bit more because it was very cute. And this is this Count Massimo who inherits very unexpectedly the countess, the county, and yeah, they fall in love, and it's really cute. It's very cute. But I found the sisters kind of annoying because they were always there. They never really had any time on their own together. It was always so there. It feels kind of like 1800th century vibes, I would say. But yeah, it's cute. I give it 4 stars. Yeah. And so a lot of like easygoing books this month, I would say. Cute books. And after that, I read The Little Bakery in Brooklyn by Julie Kaplan. I really like the cover of that. I bought this at sales, Swedish sales. And I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.2 stars. I thought it was very sweet. Also a lot of baking, of course, which I really enjoyed. But it's more spicy than other books I read, which I like. And yeah, it was a sweet romance, and it was hot. I would say. I mean, it's a feel-good book. You know what will happen. You know how it will go, and I like that sometimes, quite often. Depends on my mood, what I need. So yeah, if you need something light and take some time to read, I do really recommend these books, and I think I will read more of her. This is a young woman, Sophie Bennings, who leaves London to go to New York, and baking. She's actually not a baker herself, I would say. She's actually working for a magazine writing about baking, but she lives in a house where her new friend who lives there, who she rents from, has the bakery. So different kind of point of view, but she helps her, and she's good at baking because that's what she writes about in the magazine. And of course, a lovely neighbor and work colleague is very charming. So there is a book before this one apparently, and I'm not sure if she about in Copenhagen, and I think that's about her as well, I guess. So I want to read that one. I'll probably read it as an ebook. And the last book I read in March was probably also my favorite book of March, which I also gave 5 stars. The Nightingale by Christine Hanna. Very different from the other books I read this month. it is it's a beautiful, very, very sad book. It's about two sisters in France during the Second World War and before it starts. And I read quite a lot of books about the Second World War and set in France. And I must say this is one of the best ones I read. And it describes more about what happens and why. And it's really, really sad and very gripping and frustrating to read and hard to read. I read the ending on a train back home from during Easter, and I was crying on the train, trying to keep it down. But it was really good. It doesn't say that it's based on a true story, so I guess it's not. But I'm quite sure that it's based on things that has happened, because one of the sisters becomes a spy, and I read in other books as well, and I think they say it in this book. There was a lot of French women who did work as a spy, because the Germans didn't realize that women were spies. So so one sister is staying in the little town where she lived with her husband and daughter, and the other one is trying to save a lot of people. Like, it's quite, as you see, it's quite a thick book, so it's from the beginning of the war to the end. And so it's a long story. It doesn't look very thick, but it took quite a while to read. It took me 6 days to read this, and that's a lot for me. So yeah, if you want to read something really heart-gripping and because it's not just the sadness about the war, it's also so sad about the sisters, because they don't understand each other, and the sister who is staying at home trying to raise her daughter, she doesn't know that her sister is a hero. She just thinks she gone to Paris to have fun, which is kind of strange because no one is having fun. And it's not until afterwards that she knows about all this stuff. Yeah, it's kind of a mystery as well, because you get to follow one of the sisters in the 1990s as well, and you just don't really know who it is you're following. You don't know which of the sisters you're following. Yeah, I won't say more than that. I could say a lot of things about this book, but I won't say anymore. I think you should read it. Yeah, read this book. It's really, really good. So that's all from me for March, and so I'll be back quite soon about my books I read in April. And I'm reading a lot of interesting books in April, also quite light-hearted, but right now I'm reading quite a sad book, actually. But yeah, I'll tell you more when the time is there, when the time has come. Thank you. Bye.